Hey, CrownContent Publications followers, viewers, and supporters. Thank you for tuning in again to another live segment with the CrownContent Publications YouTube channel where publishing and marketing do meet. If you're interested in learning more about our service to help freelancers and authors in 2022, please make sure you visit my website at www.contentcrownpublications.com. This is where many of our viewers, followers, and supporters come to get the most updated tips, inspiration, and just facts when it comes to business, okay? My name is Miss Whitney. I am a publishing services coordinator, consultant, and business consultant for many clients who seek to just elevate themselves in new ways during the pandemic. We know that this is the era of digital technology, marketing, digital business all the way around. And things are changing in society, and that's why we have revamped our mission to raise more awareness about how these changes affect freelancers and business owners and companies altogether. But today on our channel, we're more going to be discussing something that we all can relate to, regardless of what type of work it is that we do, what company it is that we work for, or what it is we do for our own companies, okay? And that is toxic culture traits. You heard it, toxic culture traits, because it's just something that not enough of us are talking about. And if toxic culture traits were not real, we wouldn't have seen a great resignation. We wouldn't have seen so many parents. I mean, we had so many already homeschooled, but we wouldn't have seen so many, like I said, go into this state when it came to the pandemic and their children's security and protection. See, toxicity in this era, in this society, in this generation seems to only be discussed when we are talking domestic violence or toxic family members or toxic friends. But see, toxicity goes deeper than the people we know best. These type of cultures do exist in the workplace, and this is exactly why even entrepreneurs and freelancers simply have to be careful with who they choose to do business with today, who they choose to reveal information about, when it comes to resources or platforms that they use to help launch themselves. See, I had it all wrong. Many of us new millennials thought it was so weird that people became more selfish when it came to, their connections. But now we see that it wasn't just selfishness out here, guys. It was people intentionally setting boundaries, intentionally drawing that line when it came to their personal business. Business work-wise and business life-wise. Let's talk about toxic culture traits a little bit. Now, it can be described as what drives a society or a group of people to make dysfunctional decisions. It leads to poor communication, abusive leadership, and power struggles, okay? So let's talk about it. When you think of the word culture, because we're talking about toxic culture traits, what do you think when you hear the word culture? Something that has been repetitively happening, traditions that have been repetitively happening, cycles that have been repetitively happening, because this is just the simple way of that group of people, of that company, of that business. And this, obviously this culture, whatever culture it is that they choose, it works for them. It has worked for them. What does work for them mean? Well, that's where power is going to come in at. And no matter what level of business, see, I'm so glad I went to school for business, okay? That I'm in school for business. Because one of the main things we're going to learn when it comes to business is that there are always some type of levels of chain command, hierarchy, whatever you want to call them, with the very food cycle as we know it. There's the bottom, there's the top when it comes to food cycles, weatherization cycles are cycles. But we're talking about on this channel how toxic culture traits are also cycles, and if they are not assessed and attended to, they can become dangerous. Don't believe me? Once again, we're living in a time of great resignation, and many companies and businesses as we speak are looking for ways to rebuild rebuild their little businesses, or it does face it faces the possibility of their whole business falling, their whole business shutting down, and many of them are already there. I'm not saying that all the businesses closed down or many people walked off of their jobs due to toxic culture traits, but let's look at it. Maybe they felt like, a lot of employees felt like the COVID leave pay did not come fast enough. See, employers want to overlook the fact that now that they're offering these things, and make it look like they had been offering these things the whole time. Toxic, by the way. It's a very great example of what I'm talking about. Or overtime pay going up, or, you know what I mean? The pay in general going up was going to hurt them so much that they could not help their employees with this. Yet they get on TV marketing that, hey, there's a staff shortage. People are quitting work because they're lazy. Why would people just easily believe that anyway? If you've seen a culture of people working the past 20 years, 25 years before a pandemic, why would you easily be brainwashed into believing that people just stopped working, stopped relying on this certain way to pay their bills and take care of their children because they're lazy? Did you ever think about the fact that toxic culture traits are real? Even in the workplace, you have toxic leaders, toxic, co-heads. We're talking about the top people that know that their money is involved when it comes to the employees that they hire, the level of staff, you know what I mean, that they have with this company. They know their money's tied into it. Look at what's going on with the truck drivers already. Y'all think they're just taking a stance because they're lazy and they want to have something to complain about? Or did they notice some toxic traits, whether it came to the law, whether it came to the regulations and mandates to the pandemic? People are standing up to toxicity all alone. So most toxic culture traits do cause negative cycles. See, people look at, I'm just going to use religious leaders as an example because they're the only ones, they get my kudos. They're the only ones I've seen lately stand up and say, look, there may be not only negative and demonic curse cycles out here that exist, but there may also be people that were born to help break them, to help stop them, to start a new way or show people a new path to when it comes to success. Because if your success is coming through oppression, you might as well be a slave, right? And many people did not want to feel like slaves at their jobs anymore. They had to choose between their sick COVID contracted wife and children and going to work. We're not going to play like childcare research. All that stuff was plenteous at the start of this whole pandemic because it wasn't. We had to slowly find ways because in every cycle of evolution, you have to begin to evolve with it, or the evolution itself begins to take over. So slowly they begin to make, stipulations. Slowly, here's a stimulus check. Slowly, we're going to provide unemployment pandemic for entrepreneurs and freelancers who may be struggling, who, had to stop working for this reason. Because, see, it was bigger than us for schools to shut down for a whole. I remember schools shut down in 2020 during spring break and did not open again till the fall of that same year in 2020. Why would you call parents lazy 3 to 6 months after that period just because you begin to reemploy people? You chose to open businesses back up when you felt like it, and now people were supposed to flock in like birds and dogs for these jobs. No, now they have to re-evolve their home life, which was sitting at home with their children until school opened back up. Making sure that they didn't take them in public, and even if the kids were already in childcare and boys and girls clubs and things like that, maybe these parents stopped taking them there for a while because the media was the one telling us that COVID was killing people. See, death is not a game. And when you start advertising and mediatizing people dying, bodies dropping like flies at the time, people were not finna play with y'all about their kids. They're gonna watch who they're leaving them with as babysitters. They're gonna watch who's sanitizing their houses or not. And even if you were staying with family during that time, now they're gonna be telling you what they think is best. If you're gonna live in this house, these are you already had the level of mandates and regulations when it came to the law in many states. But now you got your family telling you what you should do just to continue to receive their help. We're not calling that toxic, but people did not give, slowly the rights and what people thought was best for their life. They didn't have to be doctors and expertise in COVID. None of us were. And I'm using this as an example of how slowly toxic traits began to come out in many people during this pandemic breakout. You saw who people really were, even in the workplace. This is a business channel, right? What leads to toxic culture traits to begin with? Lack of recognition. Somebody feels like, they're putting in all this work. They're putting in all this overtime. They're going an extra mile to be promoted. Many of you guys have that same story, and this type of stuff was going on before the pandemic. But your supervisor, when it comes time to promotion period and what do they call it? Evaluation to see who's going to receive more pay and who they need to promote, because we know that companies and businesses, it's cheaper for them to promote within. I hope we know. But if you don't know, I am a business major, so I can talk to you about it. Somebody feels lack of recognition, or maybe many people in the company, that's even worse, begin to feel lack of recognition for the hard work and dedication that they're putting in. Once again, people do come to work because they have families to take care of and feed. But imagine going through toxic traits at work, and that stress you're carrying it from work to your car, then to the 7-Eleven you got to stop at and get gas, all the way through traffic, and back home at your husband, back home at your kids, back home at your wife, back home at grandma. And they think it's something that they did, when really you carried that stress all the way from the workplace. My point, how dare y'all believe the stigma and the repetitious, because people were looking for an answer, like, what's going on? Why is there a great resignation? And the best y'all could come up with was people were lazy and they rather receive unemployment. I'm so glad nobody's received pandemic unemployment in a year now. So now what are y'all going to say that it is? People have the right, and it's toxic for you or whoever, regardless of what level of power that you're on, it is toxic for you to tell somebody just your thought, your law overrides their right. Their thought process on what's best for their child that they pushed in labor and birth. And I know it's not just about the mothers, because you got a lot of fathers who have sacrificed a lot to provide for their children. But mothers are near-death experiences every time they birth a child. And this was before the pandemic. And now, years down the line, you're going to tell them, you know what's best for their child, and you don't expect some type of reaction. No, you're gonna tell the masses how to react to them doing what's best for their children when it comes to their protection, their security, their health, their education. It's not right, guys. So lack of recognition is where I started. Favoritism. It doesn't matter when there's a sect, a group of people. That's why we're talking about the word culture. No culture starts with just one person doing a repetitious thing, right? That one person eventually dies, and if that one thing that they love to do or that they used to carry on in their life is not carried on by another, it can't be called culture. It died where they died. But culture is when you got a group of people. Look at the first 4 letters of the word culture. It has to be a sect or a group of people who believe in similar or common interests. who believe in this one tradition, who believe in this one song, who believe in this one meal, this one way of cooking, whatever it is what shapes culture, and culture never changes until culture breakers step on the scene. Because there's a difference to me between culture and toxic culture traits. Things that we are creating within our culture to keep people at a certain level of thinking, at a certain level of finances, at a certain level of being able to strive all together. Favoritism, why did I mention it? Because even within work cultures, there's usually a supervisor who more favors somebody. Oh, and it's not oftentimes because of their experience, their career, how much they put in. Once again, we wouldn't have had so many people resign. It's because you have people in power who favor who they choose to favor. And then try to stop the favor of people that they don't favor. That's a problem. That's a problem when you feel like, well, I'm paying you. It's if it's not your own business, you're not paying me. You're just in HR positions, or your supervisor, or your this manager. That's not your money, because you're getting paid too to help that company make all the money. But we haven't had time to think about these things because we're too busy being told what to do. We're too busy being told what's best because this cycle has worked for them. Unhealthy communication. When you have a office full of people that are just gossiping every day, and I'm using workplace for example because this is a business channel. We offer publishing and business consultations for freelancers, but we're talking about workplace cultures to give this example of where toxic culture traits do grow, and if they're not stopped, how things can fall apart. It's just, like I say, detrimental. Because some people get so toxic, they're willing to go the extra mile. They're willing to go the extra mile. This is why we have workers' compensation rights, business insurance, and things like that. Because if these type of injustices weren't real, the law wouldn't have these things in place already. Yes, there's going to be people. You become successful in a certain avenue, you're always going to have what you call haters, or people against the movement that you might be on, people against you breaking a certain type of cycle. Okay? Many people have been fired already because they said, no, I'm not staying in the mask for 10 hours. I have asthma, or I get really congested in this, so I'd rather sit at home where I know my air is filtered, where I know I'm going to be okay, and my health is going to be okay, and this is what I think is best for me. And they were literally fired. Fired or had to resign. So everybody wasn't out here on unemployment because they're lazy. Let's take my story for example. I had just started a job with a good company when news of the pandemic got out. Was still in college too. My kids were in school. This was the norm of most people's lives. So I did not resign from that job because I was lazy. I just started, probably my 6th week in. Just found a way to, you know what I'm saying, work out, my kids' school hours plus the after school care so I could keep that job so I wouldn't have to depend on people who wanted to call me lazy. I didn't have to ask them for childcare. I didn't have to ask them for the funds for childcare anymore. Just had got on that level. And then boom, okay. Schools closed down until the fall of 2020. It was told to us at first it was just going to be a week, but that week turned into 2, 3, and then schools, the government thought it was best that public schools stay shut down for a while. A lot of us were not even knowledgeable about homeschool regulations, laws, and options in our states. But now we have to hear that many kids are behind on their reading levels from a year or two of setback. They're behind on the levels they're supposed to be with math calculations. They're behind on what they're supposed to be up to par on had it not been for a gap. How could parents have stepped in and helped fix that? See, those virtual classes did not come into play once again into the fall of that year. Then virtual options were, and they're still available now. Once again, when there's the evolution, until we put those stipulations in to help people evolve, people don't know what to do. And yes, this has a lot to do with business, regardless of who doesn't want to look at it, accept it, and admit it. See, if parents were on the state of mind where everybody was so in a state of shock that people were dying left and right and on respirators at the time, they didn't think, okay, just because school is shut down, I'm going to withdraw my child and begin to homeschool my child so that my child does not fall behind. No, 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 no. There were literally mandates out here to stop landlords from evicting people because people couldn't go to work once the schools were shut down. Just here to set the record straight about what really happened and how people are now trying to catch back up on the businesses that they had. No matter how small it be. The education levels of their children. And when things opened back up, people were just supposed to go back to normal. So favoritism and lack of recognition is one of the main traits that, if you're looking for signs and traits that you might be in a toxic situation, from family to workplace. This is it. I just named two. Unhealthy communication, lack of recognition, favoritism. There's nothing wrong with having your favorite TV show, shoes, jacket, and teddy bear that you sleep with. But why are we in a place of favoritism when it comes to human beings? And that's cool. But you want to balance, especially if you call yourself a successful entrepreneur, a successful business owner, and you're supposed to be walking in a place of leadership where people can, because trust is going to be another one on here. When people feel a level of distrust when they come to work, they don't know if you're digging all in their files, if you're monitoring them in a way that you shouldn't be monitoring. Let them have the slightest thought that is going on. Of course, it affects their mentality. Of course, it affects their work ethic. Because now they feel like their legal rights are being tampered with. Especially if it's being done. People are gossiping and slandering their name in the workplace. Because they don't favor them, or somebody else is getting more favoritism, or somebody else is messing with the boss behind the scenes so they can get that promotion, but you're really the one putting the work in to actually earn that promotion. It's nothing new. It's just that when we are trying to rebuild our lives, all of us as a society, as a community, to fix staff shortages and setbacks and financial setbacks and things like that, how is that helping for us to continue to go in that way? Dislike and like who we are, not according to it's almost like a race war again. A black man once could have the same skills a white man does, but if that employer favors him, the white guy, more because he's white, well, that's much bigger than the black man. And once again, business laws came from somewhere. EEOC and human rights. This stuff definitely came from somewhere. Why? Because the cycle is not new. The root of these things is not new. But now it's a little bigger than race when people start hurting financially. Now we're looking to attack anyone who is thinking out the box, who says they're going to stand up for their own rights, who says they're not getting the vaccine or they're not wearing a mask because it's against their human right. Now, these are the people that are being looked down on. Those that resigned or were fired for things that were simply bigger than them. Now they're lazy. Y'all better get out of that old stigma way of thinking, because it's not going to work during this new evolution. What do they call it? The Great Reset. So you can sit back like, it's already happening. It's already happening. But you stay in your old way. You stay stuck there and see what happens. Unhealthy communication, leads to high turnover rates, which we already began to see happen when it came to the Great Resignation. Regardless of how reputable or notable a company was, you could have been a funeral home. You were still having employee shortages. You could have been a transportation service. You were still having employee shortages. This was not a external problem. This is just as well a internal problem, because what were you doing to secure the positions of those employees that were there to begin with at the start of the pandemic? We don't blame you. Maybe you didn't know what to do. Did you seek help? Did you call a business consultant like myself? Did you call people to help you strategize new ways to market and keep your employees pay and make sure their homes are taken care of so they're not getting evicted and all of this and having to use eviction moratoriums to stay in their homes? 9 times out of 10, you weren't. Not a lot of businesses were doing that to begin with. A loosened code of conduct can be described as you implying and enforcing rules and regulations on more people than you are for others. If you think humans don't recognize that type of behavior, you're wrong, and you're pretty much, it doesn't matter, but you're pretty much calling them ignorant, and people don't take that lightly. They know the rule book of conduct just like the other employees, because most times we all had to sign a contract to begin with to get that position. But if you think people don't see you enforcing certain things on other employees more than you are on others, because you have your favorites, like I already discussed, and you thought they were supposed to still, once again, these are things that make people begin to feel like a slave, like less than human rights. And I don't see anybody, maybe I'm looking at the wrong sources. I don't see anybody talking about it, like I said, outside of the religious leaders. And these are the ones y'all want to call crazy, conspiracies. No, they're humans. They just have faith. They have faith that, and they had to put their faith in something. When your very employer, supervisor, bosses cannot come up with new solutions that are going to help you take care of your family at the start of something you couldn't even control. It had nothing to do with you. Actually, from what I heard, the whole virus came from another country, and they didn't take it lightly that they were being blamed for where it came from. So this is real deep. A toxic culture is going to be plagued with drama and unhappy people. Like I said, I'm using workplace environments to give the examples that I am giving, but this could be on a college basketball team. It's still work. An NBA team, an NFL team, a church or organization, a group of people in general. What is culture? What's the first 4 letters of culture? And these are going to be people that are filled with drama and just unhappiness all the way around. And then if I'm not telling the truth, why has the saying been here since before I was born? And I was born in 91. That misery loves company. Does misery love company within companies? Because that would explain such a great resignation. Everybody's not with misery because they don't love the company of misery. They don't love coming to work, constantly hearing about they came there to work and make their money and go home and spend their money on their kids or whatever they need to. They don't want to come to work hearing about whether you think masks are okay, whether you should buy the best mask tomorrow. N95s are better than they didn't come to work for that. They just woke up one morning and this was a reality. Okay? So, drama, we all know what drama is. The little extra sprinkle of exaggeration about any type of situation or problem at hand. See, some things are not even as bad as we make it. I'm not going to go too deep in this, but drama lovers are definitely going to make it seem that way. And if we don't have the type of eye or vision or mind to be able to see through that type of stuff, we're in trouble anyway. Because y'all swear y'all can see it when you're looking at your family, or you swear you can see it at work. But we can't see it when it comes to being a part of laws changing in our communities, in our society, speaking up to the leaders that it does matter to. There's not enough things set in place. Even when it comes to narcissism, a narcissist is going to possess many toxic traits. We know that all day long. But did you know most of the business leaders we know today have at least an inch of narcissism with them, because they need at least an inch of power and control over their employees, so they can deny it if they want to. But you have a sense of some type of control and how to control a group of people. But the thing is, have people begin to abuse this type of power within businesses. Once again, we're talking about the economy here. We're talking about the finances of the middle class American here these days. We're talking about the state of the low income households these days. And we still want to call the low income class people lazy. Y'all crazy. The homeless community has grown tremendously. And then some of the people that are out there now, they were just driving the latest car and all of that right before the start of the pandemic. So it's time to wake up. High turnover rates. Businesses and sects of people plagued with drama and unhappiness. Think about it. This sends stress, like I said, to homes and discourages others from living their best lives. Toxic culture traits do. Toxic culture environments do. See, it's easy to point out that Jack Daniels over there has 10 beers a day since the pandemic started. And anybody can look at it, and Jack Daniels 9 times out of 10 is not finna hide his drinking problem, because he knows what took him to that level of mentality. Only he knows what made him give up. Do we have reporters out here digging deep to find out the stories of how people were affected during the pandemic? See, I'm just one person, but that's why on my podcast show, we go deep, and we're finding out how freelancers and business owners, how they have found ways to remain successful, keep their businesses going through a pandemic. Because we commend them, we applaud them, and we like to hear their tips. We like to hear more resources and connections and just tips that might help us too. We're not out here trying to step on them and put them down and make them look like criminals because they found a way to overcome pandemic setbacks. That's the time we're living in too, guys. See, toxic culture groups, toxic culture traits and cycles will have people making those who haven't been a problem the way they're trying to say that they've been a problem, having them look that way. But we want to know why there's a staff shortage. We want to know why the economy is falling apart. We want to know why people are going into businesses for themselves. Well, they're not welcomed in your companies. They're not welcomed in your organization. Their ideas are no longer welcome. Why don't y'all talk about that out? Why don't business leaders, workforce leaders? See, y'all, this is what I mean. You got people and organizations that literally get funds and get money to help people overcome certain things. But if they are abusing this money and nobody's talking about it, how can money be abused? You only put in a certain... I'm going to bring up another article in part 2 of this segment, because there will be a part 2. I'm already at 33 minutes. They get money to clothe people, feed them, house them. But then if we have more people to just closely look at and investigate how this is being done, how these people are being treated as they receive it, because you got a lot of quote unquote caseworkers and parole officers and things that literally make things harder for their clients on purpose. Abusive leadership. And now we're looking at why things are falling apart everywhere. Why countries themselves are literally deliberating whether they want to continue working with a country like America. I have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with how they're looking at us, but I do see the other side. It looks like our country is full of narcissists and abusive leaders, jealous, narcissistic, toxic people. And just because these people have money, just because they're in power, uh, there can't be anything wrong with them. They wouldn't lie. They wouldn't do this and that to stop the less fortunate. So when people are discouraged, when toxic cultures discourage others from living their best lives, this could lead to fear of failure. Now they're scared to speak up. Now they're scared to start something to change things. Now they're scared to go put in a work complaint or a complaint about what they've been through because you just got through grooming them into fear. And once again, in another segment, I already talked about how people can't think when they're scared. Their regular thought process is not going to be the same. I'm not a psychologist, and I don't have to be to know that because I've lived in states of fear before. And because it tastes awful, because I don't like what it does, I don't like the whole suppression feeling of it. I'm going to go out how I go out. I'm going to go out speaking up. I'd rather do that because either way, death is coming for all of us, right? It's coming. We all got to go. But I want to rest in peace in my grave knowing that I tried, regardless of who didn't want to listen. I tried to make some type of positive change. I tried to be a positive leader within my business. I tried to encourage employees in my business, find out how I can help them when it comes to the deeper aspects of business, not just the pay. You know what, Sally? What child care options do you have? Because I'm really not just trying to fire you at the dime of a hat, and I see your skills. I see what you can bring to this company. And I think it's unfortunate that you would have to stop working with me because you don't have a child care resource. So I'm going to help you. Would I be that type of business leader for the freelancers and employees I may have to hire one day? Do we have enough of them out here? It also leads to confusion, low morale, and toxic coworkers. So once again, it's easier for people to join the team of people that have the most people doing a certain thing, right? You see 10 people over there building boxes, but you don't know they're building them to go attack somebody they don't like. You just see 10 people doing it, but you see one person over there building with sticks. So you prefer, instead of asking that one person that's singled out, why are you building with sticks? This is how people think too. They're going to go over there and do the 10 boxes with everybody else just because it's what the masses and the majority of people at that company are doing. Because everybody is talking about Jack and how he smells, you're going to go in and laugh and giggle so you don't stand out, so you don't look like the one that's against this toxic behavior. Too many people are getting with the trend of toxicity so they don't stand out, so they don't look like they're against, so they don't lose their job, so they don't lose their positions. God forbid they're going through what the low income Americans are having to suffer from. But we have to do better as business leaders. And then I'm going to discuss, since I discuss signs and traits that you might be experiencing in a toxic culture, we're also going to discuss how to heal yourself from it and that you need to get away from it ASAP. Because if you've been in it this long, this far, you're probably already very damaged. You're probably already being plotted against, when it comes to making you look like the ill-will person at that job, at that church, at that organization. If any of the traits and signs that I named sounds like something that you deal with on a daily basis, it's time to get away from there. I'm not trying to teach people to run, because I already know even me encouraging you guys to stand up against it, to speak up against it is not for the weak. But there's nothing wrong with going back and researching your rights as a worker, your rights as a, employee, your rights as a human being. Okay? So that's one start though. You might go look into something and say, man, I was being discriminated against this whole time, and this is against my human rights. But you didn't know your laws when it came to you didn't know your rights when it came to the workplace, right? This is how you can start, you know what I mean, when it comes to easing your way out of these type of toxic cultures, even if it's a cycle, even if it's something you've been in for 20 plus years. Freedom is here if you want it. There's already a great resignation. You want to observe. You want to observe, and this is for business leaders too. You might say, man, this sound like me. This sound like how I've been running my company through a pandemic. Your first step is to observe and assess everybody in that company, everybody in that office, everybody in that organization, everybody in that church, everybody in that family. Observe, watch, listen. Because we just went over what toxic culture traits are going to look like. Mess, 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 mess. Misery, misery, misery. Gossip, 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 gossip. Poor communication. Abusive leadership. Somebody being able to go do things just because they have the power to do it to make you look bad. Criminalistic, whatever, and they will go the length. We're talking about jealous, miserable people here. We're living in a time where people hungry. They don't want to go. See, we give all these tips and advice, and I'm already paying close attention because my channel doesn't have as near as many viewers and likes as I feel like it should. Not because for me, because of the type of information I'm sharing on here. So I'm paying attention to it myself. You want to observe things, assess things, and if any of those traits seem to be lingering within the community you work in, within your business, it's time to assess some things. Reestablish secure security. Not security that just protects the ones that you favor within the company, the ones that you favor within the church. Does everybody have the same rights and options when it comes to security? Being able to come to this leader about what they think is going on. Because you're calling yourself a leader. You're calling yourself a supervisor. You're calling yourself a parent. But can people come to you about their issues, and when it's going on, what you're doing about it does show the type of leader that you are. You want to communicate, take responsibility. If this leader or somebody who was supposed to be putting order in places wasn't doing it, they're going to need to stand up and take some responsibility, and then you're going to have to take some for allowing yourself to be treated that way for so long. That's number one. Then number two, if that leader is not willing to take some type of responsibility for either not doing something or doing something to show that they do care about what you confess that you feel like is going on, they're going to need to take responsibility, and you're going to want to pay attention to whether they're willing to or not. Are they willing to apologize? Are they willing to confess where they've been wrong at? You might be dealing with a toxic culture leader if they're not. Prioritize more training, because within businesses, one of the first things before you put somebody on the front line to market and advertise your products, your store, whatever it is, there's usually some type of training. There needs to be within a professional setting. There's training, there's orientation, and then this is just a tip. You can reestablish and then even reestablish what you are involving in your training when it comes to how to treat others. I wouldn't just want anybody over my business and they got toxic traits written all over them. Because I don't know what they're willing to do to employees who do not deserve their toxic behavior. But, you know, when it comes to staff shortages, you got companies out here hiring any and everybody just to, I'm telling y'all, money is the root of all evil. And if money is the only motivator, I already talked about that in another segment, that's dangerous. Money should not be the only motivator of why you started a business in the first place. See, yes, my mission is aimed towards entrepreneurs and freelancers, but as a business consultant, I'm going to ask you, What inspired you to start this business? Because I probably don't want to work with you if it's just money. Because, you know, when times like a pandemic comes, You're one of the first ones to tap out, stress out. You know what I mean? Undercut people to keep going because your main motivation is money. And some of y'all are working up under people like that, and it's scary. But for the sake of blending in and not looking lazy and looking like you getting your money, you don't mind working with toxic behavioral people. So strive for openness. People should feel that's another sign that you're in a toxic culture behavior. If you don't feel accepted to express something as minimal as your emotions and feelings, it has gotten to the level where your emotions, regardless of whether they are authentic or not, you just coming to them about your feelings and emotions rubs them wrong. Oh, baby, it's time to get away. So you can't hear how I feel, Mr. Manager? I can't tell you what to change or what to do about it, but I need you to know my mental state about how I feel in this workplace. Mr. Pastor, if it's a church, I can't tell you how I feel without something being done about it. People have been watching and observing these things, and we're wondering why they're walking out the door, why they are resigning, why they're quitting, why they don't want to deal with some of you guys out there. We mentioned gossip, right? The I'm finna go here. The Bible is one of the very oldest scrolls. With me being a publisher and a writer myself, the Bible is a book I very well much reference to because it has, regardless of how other people feel, it has a lot of good points when it comes to life viewpoints and life ways to assess life. That's what I'm going to agree with. And it has a scripture there that says, guys, bad communication corrupts good manners. You could be an honorable person. You could be a good person, but you become spoiled slowly because of who you chose to hang around and listen to. And they weren't. And y'all got to know this. This is another old time. I believe that about the Bible though. Bad communication corrupts good manners. But you got people that'll sit around and they feel like, well, I wasn't gossiping about you, but I heard everything they said. You were being corrupted through that whole conversation. Especially if you didn't defend who they were talking. Defend don't always mean, oh, that's not true. Y'all stop spreading that gossip about her. That's not true. I saw what. That's not always what defending somebody's name is about. Defending somebody's name could be as simple as this. You getting up from that group setting of people talking about that person and walking away. Not saying anything. That's defending that person too. Because you're showing, I'm not with, like, how is this making me any money talking about? Because look, the celebrities, every comment y'all leave on their lives, every time you talk about them, you're giving them your energy, first of all. That's another topic for another day. But they're getting paid for the comment. Even if it's ill and you're leaving a comment or a review just so you can feel like you know that celebrity better than everybody, they're getting paid off of each and every comment, review that you leave. But we're talking about us, the commoners. And a lot of y'all are not getting paid anyway for what people think about you. So I hope that inspires somebody. And then these people that think ill-willed about you, they're not supporting your business. That's my daily inspirational tip on this segment today from the Crown Publishing Content family. Watch this. Mind the business that pays you, which is your business. Ain't nobody gonna be more focused on what you need more than you. And if they are, you let that be exposed about them on their own. Somebody with some sense eventually should say, why are you talking about that person so much? And it doesn't even pay you. A lot of people gonna say in a minute you owe them something or you wrong them, but it's toxic to focus on even a way you were wronged in life. Psychologists are gonna tell you that, baby, you gotta heal. You gotta heal. Some of y'all are getting these jobs and you're mentally See, I'm gonna let the employees, the employers, the company, HR, they're all gonna see it anyway. See, the great resignation is already happening. Y'all got people serving y'all burgers who barely, care about the actual internal diet of their own children. The mental health of their own children. Have they invested in therapy and things like that for their kids after tragic situations? Are they allowing their very children to stay intoxicated? You don't know the people that you work with at companies or that you get services or products from at companies. But this is why I love business, because see, I look very deep and I'm going to get even wiser in this aspect of my life. I don't want to get cell phone service from a company that I've read an article discarded 20,000 customers talking about their accounts being hacked. Why would I do business? I wouldn't care if they're the most notable business in the town. I'm finna go find somebody else. See, reviews do matter. Opinions matter if they can save other people from some type of misfortune or help other people some type of way. Reviews do matter. Opinions do matter. But if it's corrupt gossip 24/7 and it has nothing to do with business, it has nothing to do with elevating your business or that person's business, it's probably a waste of your time. So you're so ill-willed with a person, fire them, tell them how you feel. Don't have them sitting in a job in the corporation, in the church, and you laughing at them behind their back. So I hope this segment helps and touches somebody. But it is a real thing because, like, really, guys, we're living in a time churches people been going to 10 years. Why am I mentioning their businesses? Their 501c3s. Or some pastors are self-employed. It's not my business. The thing is, this is another example of culture, and people are leaving churches at alarming rates. This is a great example because of toxic culture behavior. You can't say this is a place of healing. This is a place of change. This is a place where you can find love and encouragement and resources. But when people come there, it's the complete opposite. Or when people leave, they see, hear, and they're doing complete opposite. So people see no need. Now, church life is one thing, but are people losing faith? You better believe they are. They're leaving work as we speak. They're leaving jobs that they loved. With companies that they once cherished because they saw who they really were when George Floyd type incidents were being mediatized on the news. They heard the gossip and how people really felt when it came to life and human rights, right? And they decided this is not the type of group of people that I prefer. So anyways, guys, we thought this is just going to be segment part 1 to toxic culture traits and how we do need to start thinking more about whether we are personally the cause of negative cycles. And even if we are, being willing to take the responsibility of where we messed up and changing those cycles for the sake of our babies. Because a lot of y'all have given up hope on your own life. So I know you're not thinking about your babies. You're giving up hope. You're just hiding it. You know what I mean? You're trying to stay as strong as you can, hoping for a change through the pandemic. We get it. And so I'm not here to knock your faith. See, when I explain faith to people, it's anything you believe. If you believe you don't believe nothing, you still believe something. If you believe your toes are pretty and 20,000 people done told you got the worst toes in the world, you have deep faith in your own toes. This is what I mean. Faith is the simple belief in the stronghold of train of thought of whatever it is that you want. And y'all, some people faith is out here in some dark stuff. They want to feel powerful no matter what route or angle that they have to take. And we want to be careful. But they want you to look like you're them. That is going to be called channeling or manipulating. See, we'll admit that gaslighting and all of that is real, but it's also real in the workplace on corporate levels. You know what I mean? In powerful business leadership positions. because these people feel like these are things and tactics that they have to use to gain control. So if I were some of you guys, before I hire, first of all, I'm going to reassess my whole company. I'm going to reassess everybody there and who they really are, and where they gain expertise, how they got where they are, what type of things they've been doing. That's what I'm going to do. Because, like, if you're really serious about your business, especially and it carrying on to your kids, maybe one day you won't be here, but you left them to run business with wolves. That's not loving your kids. So anyways, guys, thank you for tuning in to this channel. We're publishing and marketing meat, and we want you guys to think about some things out there, because we all already out here talking about it. And some of y'all negatively saying that people quit their jobs and became freelancers because they're late. Do you know how much more work entrepreneurship is? You better put some respect on those people's names, first of all. Do you know how much work it is to keep faith in your business when it seems like everything around you is against seeing you succeed? Y'all better put some respect on entrepreneur freelancers' name. Now, once again, to learn more about our mission to service authors and freelancers in 2022, you're going to visit our website at www.contentcrownpublications.com. We still have slots available on our podcast show for small businesses seeking promotion and advertisement. This is going to be completely free for the month of March. So y'all feel free to contact me. My contact information is on the website via email, booking consultations, and my direct phone number. Because maybe if you don't want to do a live interview with me on the podcast segment, I don't mind you just sending me some basic information that you would want people to know about what you do with your small business, okay? And this is going to lead to promotion. So later on, when I'm charging for these type of interviews and promotional segments, I don't want to hear anything about it, because I know it's coming. People always got something negative to say. She's charging for promotional interviews on her radio show. And I'm going to direct them right back here to the month of March, when I was doing March Mania segments for authors and freelancers and small businesses. And I marketed it all March long. I don't know what people were distracted by. It could be the wars and gas prices, but they were missing out on good resources and business tips right here on this channel. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time.